This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 67 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you through the generous sponsorship of our loyal partners, Equestrian Collections and Kentucky Performance Products. On the show this week, Terri Satterlee, president of the Central Vermont Dressage Association and British-born U.S. WEG team member Katherine Bateson-Chandler, reflects on her journey so far.
It is just amazing to me. I'm so excited and flattered that I made it this far, and honestly, it's been the support of all the people around me that have got me here. And I've had just amazing support. I'm really excited, and I want to do my best for my adopted country, which is really where I feel like I'm from at this point.
This is Chris Stafford in Lexington, Kentucky.
And I'm Heather Blitz in Folsom, Louisiana, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Heather. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Chris. It's been a little while since we've been here together on the show.
I know. And you have been, I hear from your Facebook pages, you've been sizzling in Folsom, Louisiana this summer.
Well, unfortunately, yes, and summer is just so not my favorite season of the year, but very happy that the cool weather, I think, is on its way, because we've been able to turn the fans off. We have big ceiling fans in our covered ring, and we've actually had a couple days not having to have those on. So I think fall is in the air, so I am happy as a clam.
Well, good. Well, tell us about your horses. How's the summer been going with your training program with Paragon?
Well, very steady, consistent progress. I'm really happy. It's been nice and kind of low-key, not a lot of stress. I don't have a show season or a show with him this summer. So I've just been able to train him, just be in my own head and in his head as much as I can. The training has just been just steady and a lot of progress and good quality time, getting us ready for the fall and for Devon this month. So... And the other horses, everybody's kind of coming along a nice way. It's been a really nice summer of just good, focused training and some good teaching here, too.
So tell us what you've got planned for this fall, then. You mentioned Devon.
Well, right, because I decided I wouldn't be able to go to the WEG for different reasons. It was possible for me to enter the small tour on Paragon at Devon. So I'm really excited about that. I love that show. It's just such a cozy place to be in that time of the year. And I love showing there, and bringing Paragon out then for his second CDI is going to be just a whole lot of fun. But the week and a half, there's a Danish warm blood inspection at one of the farms, or Oak Hill Ranch, which is just near me here in Louisiana. And they've asked us to come over and do a demo with him during the inspection for the people who are coming to attend. So that's going to be fun, too, to just go and do a demo. And it's a good practice also to get out in front of people where you do want to do your best and you know, perform well without actual scores being written down. So might be a good little prelude to making our trip up to Pennsylvania, which is a 22 or 23-hour trip, by the way.
Wow. Wow. How does he travel? Does he mind these long journeys? Because, of course, you moved from Florida to Louisiana from your winter quarters, didn't you? So that's a long trip.
Yeah, we did luck out and have a real cloudy day for that trip. That was only 12 hours. So, you know, as far as I know, he travels well. I just don't want to take that for granted then and, you know, miss some details. So I'm going to be real careful and split up the trip and give him a lot of time to rest before we start training again. And I think he likes being in new places. He's always interested in a new place to work, and he has more enthusiasm if he's in a new environment. So I think that's going to be all good, and we'll just take our time, and we're going up to cooler climate, so I think he'll be okay.
And so what classes will you be competing in there?
We'll do the small tour, which the Pre-St. George is on Friday, the same day, I think, as the freestyle at the WEG. And then Saturday is the intermediate, and then the top 15 have to go on for the Sunday freestyle, intermediate freestyle. So hopefully we're in all three.
Oh, fantastic. So you've been working on a new freestyle program for him then? That will be his debut.
It will be his debut. It's lovely, lovely music. I picked it out, and Marlene Whitaker has done all the editing and choreography for me, and I think she's done just an amazing job, and it's ready to go. So I'm super pleased with that, and it's always such a relief to get the production and the creativity and just all the work that it takes to get a freestyle together. It's such a relief when they're finished. So I'm very relieved and very excited because I love it. I really love it. So I'm looking forward to debuting that. I gotta qualify through the intermediate, but I'm going in. I don't want to be overconfident, but I think we'll do an okay job.
Terrific. Well, I know Paragon has such a following. I'm sure his fans will be interested to know how it goes, and maybe you'll post a video of all that.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. So yeah, look for my website after the show, and hopefully a video gets up there soon after.
Terrific. Great. Well, as you said, WEG is what it's all about in this part of the world now, for those teams that are in their final preparation. And we've, of course, caught up with some of those riders, as you know, Heather, that many of them, of course. We've had Katherine Haddad, a friend of yours, here on the show a few times, and she was talking about her preparation while she was at Gladstone, competing for selection. And, of course, we've had Tina Conyard and Todd Fletcherich. And this week we are going to be talking to Katherine Bateson-Chandler. And then next week we have Stefan Peters on the show. So we will have the opportunity to talk to them all in their final preparation. But we begin this week with the news of the week, and the Australian team, of course, was announced. That team comprises Hayley Beresford. Of course, she's been a guest here on the show. She's going to be riding Relampaggio de Retiro, owned by Eduardo Fischer and Hayley, and Lyndall Oakley and Potiphar, owned by Carol and Sandy Oakley, and Brett Parbury and Victory Salute, owned by Carolyn Lieutenant, and Rachel Sanner and J.B. Alabaster, owned by Beverly Edwards. And, of course, you know some of those riders, Heather, from your time in Europe.
Well, the only one on that team that I really, on a personal level, was Hayley, and haven't seen her for a few years now, but because I've been over here. But great girl, and I wish her all the luck. I'm really excited for her to be on the team. She really deserves it. Hard worker and a great rider. So the Swedish team has also, of course, chosen their riders, and their list is starting with Patrick Kittle riding Watermill Scandic. It's a super nice stallion. Tina Willemsen is going to be there with Favorite. Mina Telda is going to be there riding Lorena Home. And Charlotte Hayde Bondergaard is going to be there riding Lydianus.
Well, that's a good team for them. I mean, obviously, they'll be hoping to get on the medal podium. Those European teams, it's important for them, of course, as part of their qualification for the Olympics too, isn't it, Heather?
Yes, that's really going to be a big thing for the Olympic team as well.
Terrific. Well, what do you have any predictions here of how this competition is going to unfold?
I think it's just so up in the air. I try to think about that often, and how I would really place it if we could bet on this, what I would bet on. And I just think it's so different this year. There's so many new faces and new horses, and I also haven't been really near and close to them, being down here in Louisiana for a little while and out of competition scene. So I would have a hard time picking. I really would. There's great riders and horses on every team. And, of course, there's so much strength in Holland. Germany's always going to be a major contender. And, but I think it's just so open.
Yeah, I think, and, with world records being broken as well, it's really raised the bar. And I think it's developed, obviously, a higher level of expectation from the audience, too. We're looking for more world records now. I think it's spoiled us.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very exciting year. I really am sorry I'm going to miss it, but hopefully I catch it all on video. But
absolutely,
because it can just be so, I think, grabbed in many different directions. I think that makes it so exciting.
Well, I'm sure you're going to watch it at some point, but I hope you'll also tune into the Dressage radio show, because we will be there covering it every day during the competition too. So hopefully you won't miss too much. We'll get some expert commentary and put it all in context for you. But I know there's a lot of coverage on the internet too from Universal Sports. NBC, of course, are going to be providing over 6 hours of the games in total. So it's going to be quite extensive coverage one way or the other. So it is going to be exciting, Heather, and I think in terms of the teams, highly competitive with such depth in the Dutch team, they have to start as favourites, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose that's a really good guess.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe guess, right?
That's a pretty safe one, yeah. Never know.
Well, you do. You never know. Well, since the last week's episode of the show, we heard that Ankie van Grunsven, while she, of course, did not make the dressage team, she has now been promoted from the reserve list to the team for the reigning squad there from the Netherlands. So she will be competing at the World Equestrian Games on the reigning team. So, Heather, that's raised the bar now. We're going to have to expect dressage riders to be multidisciplined now.
Well, I used to do barrel racing and pole bending when I was young. Maybe I could just get back into that.
There you go. All right, well, we're going to take a short break here to catch up with Glenn, who has some news of Kentucky Performance Products. And when we come back, we're going to hear from Terri Satterlee, who's president of the Central Vermont Dressage Association.
Hi, everyone. Glenn the Geek here. Kentucky Performance Products has become a favorite of many listeners of the Horse Radio Network. They have a product that we want you to consider called Contribute. Take a listen to episode 14 of the Tack and Habit Radio Show, and you will hear a complete discussion on this product with Delia from Kentucky Performance Products. Contribute is the omega-3 fatty acid supplement that is so important to your horse's well-being. Contribute helps maintain soundness and longevity by protecting joints from damaging inflammation and sustains a strong immune response in horses of all ages. Learn all about omega-3 and 6 fatty acids and why they are so important by listening in at tackandhabit.com, episode 14, or go to kppusa.com for more information. That's kppusa.com.
Well, our thanks again to Kentucky Performance Products supporting us here on the show. And our first guest this week, Heather, is from a U.S. Dressage Federation group membership organization, the Central Vermont Dressage Association. Terri is president there of the CVDA, and she's going to tell us what that association has been up to, what they have in terms of clinics and schooling days, and how healthy that membership is right now. So let's hear from Terri. Well, Terri, welcome to the Dressage Radio Show, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, as I explained, you are president of the Central Vermont Dressage Association, which I believe is Region 8 of the U.S. Dressage Federation's group membership organizations regions, isn't it?
That is all correct, yes.
And so when did you get started?
The organization?
Yes.
The organization is over 25 years old, but we, about 6 years ago, reformed into Central Vermont Dressage Association, Inc., where we became a Vermont nonprofit and also achieved our tax-exempt status with the IRS.
Wow.
So we revamped and reformed the organization into a more professional, credible one.
So quite a history there now, and changing to a non-profit has. What sort of differences have you seen in the organisation because of that change of status, Terri?
Well, a lot more accountability, especially with the tax-exempt status. We just run the organization with more of a business model than a club model, although it's still a small and very friendly club to members. The officers definitely are more tuned into the organization's accountability to other entities.
Now, tell us a little bit about the membership. How many do you have, and what's the range of that membership, sort of from juniors to senior riders, Terri?
We definitely have more adult members, a lot of adult amateurs. We also have some very well-respected professionals in the organization, like Jane Savoy, Ruth Paulson, Deb Smith, Jane Hamlin, to name just a few. And we have and encourage junior memberships, and I would say probably about 10% of our membership are juniors. And we do have one particular farm that really encourages, juniors to join and does a wonderful job with a lot of our junior members around the areas of sportsmanship and competition, and encourages them to clinic. And we certainly, very much support our juniors.
And in what areas of central Vermont, what are the locations that you have most of your shows and clinics and that kind of thing, Terri?
Well, our base has always been around the South Woodstock area, and that's primarily because there is an organization called the Green Mountain Horse Association, which is a venue facility and has an extensive trail network as well as a competition ground, and it's a lovely facility that people love to show at, and they run a couple sanctioned shows in dressage every year. So our members really like to come to that facility for our schooling shows. So we tend to rent that facility primarily for our shows. And then the clinics are scattered throughout the state, and again, more heavily focused in central Vermont, although we are the only group member organization in Vermont. So we are trying to branch out to the other corners of Vermont and make, our events more accessible, and certainly are very open to looking at venues that aren't so central Vermont located for hosting clinics, etc.
Tell us about those shows that you have. You mentioned schooling shows, you have clinics. Tell us a little bit about those, Terri.
Well, the schooling shows we run tend to be 3 arenas. We always hire our judges that are at least an L graduate, and, they're very professionally run little shows, and we have sponsors that donate the high score awards for all our divisions. We have 7 divisions, and then there's a year-end award for the highest scores of 2 of the 3 shows. So that's something for our members to achieve.
And clinics, do you have various clinicians come during the... I guess you can't have much outdoors once winter comes up in Vermont.
That is so true. And winter comes early and leaves late here, so we have a short season and really try and pack as much as we can into it. This year, we just had a clinic with Kathy Conley. It's a memorial clinic for one of our members who passed away, where we try and bring a nationally known instructor to the area to work with primarily adult amateurs. And that was a really... people felt really great about that clinic, and we've had that. Next year will be the 10th anniversary of that clinic. Last year we ran the L Education program. We hosted it for USDF, and that ran through, I think it was November of 2008 through September of 2009, and that brought in a lot of education to the membership, and we have some new L graduates in our area because of it, so it was a really worthwhile program for us to do.
And how many shows or clinics would you typically have then in the year up there, Terri? Or does that vary?
I would say we average 3 schooling shows, and then 3 clinics, and then we try and do a winter ed program of some sort for the membership.
Okay. Now, tell me about the scholarships. Don't you have some scholarships up there that you promote?
We do have a scholarship program, which is for a member to engage in an educational activity that they normally would not be able to. There's an application process which involves, your volunteer history, a very clear plan about what your goal is and what the time frame for achieving it is, and some letters of recommendation about why you are a worthy applicant. And we have a maximum amount of $1,500 that is given, and it's to a member that has to have been a member for at least 3 years. And over the years, we've given numerous scholarships for a varied range of pursuits, such as the L education program, to attend a certain clinic, for a member to go to a training program with their horse. We try and also encourage the person that receives the scholarship to give back in some way to the organization about what they've learned and what learning they can give others from what they've gained.
Great. Now, do you publish any sort of newsletters or publications like that for your members, or are you completely online now like some GMOs?
Well, our members have an option. They have to pay a fee to receive their newsletter in the mail. It's called the Half Halt. And it's free if you receive it online. A lot of people download it and then just print it. And some folks who do not have high-speed internet access, which Vermont does not always have, prefer to have it come in the mail. And so we just charge an additional fee to defray that cost.
Oh, terrific. Well, tell us about what you've got lined up for the rest of the year then up there in central Vermont, Terri.
Well, Saturday there's a schooling show.
Okay.
And we've also been encouraging our riders to, we did a couple freestyle clinics throughout the year, and not this year, but throughout the years. And we've been encouraging our membership to play with freestyles, and we allow that at schooling shows, even at training level, so that folks can, give it a try without qualifying scores. And there's a year-end award donated by Ruth Hogan Paulson, who has a freestyle composing business. So that's become really popular, and we've seen the number of freestyles at our shows and the quality of them increase, which has been really nice. So Saturday we have a show. We have another one in September. We have a Cavaletti clinic coming up in the fall. So, we're a busy, active organization. Absolutely.
Well, that sounds fun. Now, how do people contact you, Terri? Do they contact you directly as president, or is there a secretary that you want to encourage them to connect with? And tell us about your website. How do they find your website, too?
The website is www.cvda.org, and we just launched a new face for our website, which we're really excited about, so it's worth taking a look. And we've gotten some great feedback on it. As always, websites are fluid and a work in progress, so we're still working out a couple glitches, but it's a lovely site, and we're really happy with the quality. And our secretary, Wendy Hunter-Higgins, did all the design work and launched it for us, and we're very proud of it. So I encourage people to take a look at it there, and that will give you updated information about events, etc. And all our board members, our officers and representatives are listed on the site, and we are very open, all of us, to being contacted with questions about membership or events or just about the organization as a whole. So anyone with any questions, please don't hesitate to contact myself or any member of the board who could give you information about whatever your questions are.
Terrific, and I'm sure like any GMO, you're always open to new volunteers too.
Oh, absolutely. And we have a strong force, but we also have an aging strong force, so we really encourage people to get involved and learn the volunteer jobs. And, I've volunteered for many years, as have many members of the organization. And, I think it has built a real community. There's a lot of benefits to people that do the volunteering as well. It's not just giving, it's getting back. And I think part of that is the sense of belonging and the really strong community within the organization. And, I think our volunteers know that they're appreciated and not taken for granted, because without them, none of this would exist.
Absolutely. Without Punch, there would be no show. Well, thank you so much, Terri, for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome.
We will, of course, put a link on our website to the Central Vermont Dressage Association, so you can find out more about that. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with everything, Terri.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again to Terri for joining us, and I should remind you all that if you are involved in a group membership organisation and would like to tell us about your GMO, all you have to do is drop me a line, chris@horseradionetwork.com, and we'll be delighted to have you on the show. Well, we're going to take another break here to catch up with Glenna Gaines, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Katherine Bateson-Chandler.
Equestrian Collections is a true innovator in the retail horse world, and they have done it again, this time with their new shipping program. It's called their Unlimited Shipping Program, and there are two options, and you can choose the one that's best for you. It's simple. Pay only $34.95 one time a year and get unlimited one-way shipping to you from Equestrian Collections. You heard right. Pay only $34.95 once a year for unlimited shipments. The second option is only $15 more. You pay only $49.95 for unlimited two-way shipping. That means even your returns will be covered. That's unlimited shipping both ways for as little as 15 cents a day. Think about it. Even if you ordered every day, you won't pay any more for those shipments. Now that's an innovative company at EquestrianCollections.com.
Well, thanks again to Equestrian Collections. And Heather, we should point out, in the interest of full disclosure, they are also one of your sponsors, and you hosted a live chat with them not so long ago.
Yeah, that was great fun. And we had everyone go to their website and could join into our live chat. And I think we had quite a few participants online, so many that we couldn't even get to all the questions, unfortunately. We set up for an hour, but it was great fun, and I think that we're definitely going to do that again.
Terrific. Good. Well, we'll look out for that. And now we're going to catch up with Katherine Bateson-Chandler, who is actually a British-born, but she's been over here in the States for a number of years. She is, of course, a U.S. citizen, and she is making her team debut now at the World Equestrian Games, and we were delighted to have the opportunity to catch up with her, so let's share that conversation with you. Well, hi, Katherine. Welcome to the Dressage Radio Show, and thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on. I know this is your first time on the show, but what better excuse to have you on but to talk about your WEG preparation. And, this is the big time for you, isn't it? Making it onto the team. First of all, big congratulations.
Thank you so much. We're really, really excited.
Well, this has been quite the journey for you. I know you have a reputation for being a really hard worker, and you really did work your way up through the sport, didn't you? Let's tell our listeners a little bit about how your career began.
My career began grooming and taking care of horses. Actually, it began mucking stalls, as many people's began. And then I was a groom for 16 years for Robert Dover, internationally grooming, and eventually working my way to being assistant trainer. And then when he retired, I was exceptionally lucky enough to gain his sponsorship from Jane Clark, who is an incredible lady sponsoring 3 different events that are going to WEG. And that's sort of how it came about.
Well, that's a terrific foundation to a dressage career. I'm envied by many people, I'm sure. But I want to take you back a little bit, Katherine, for the benefit of our listeners who don't know, because they wouldn't really tell by your accent. But you're actually made in England, aren't you?
I am. I was born in England. I grew up there till I was, I think I was 12 or 13 when I moved here. And most of my family still lives in England. They're very supportive from afar.
Well, you're well and truly ensconced here in the American way of life, and obviously have the citizenship to be representing the U.S. So tell us a little bit about this year so far for you. We know you bought your pony, or Jane Clark very obviously generously bought your pony from you from Jeanette Tazen from the Netherlands.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about how that all came about, Katherine.
It was a bit of a whirlwind. I have two younger horses that did very well last year in the small tour. The one was champion, Dea, too, who's also owned by Jane. She was champion, and the other horse was third in the small tour, and I brought them along to Grand Prix now. But they were green Grand Prix horses that just need time, and they're both very sensitive. So we were sort of keeping our eye out. I knew Jane's dream was to have all three of her disciplines that she supports in WEG. So I just kept keeping an eye out, maybe for a possibility of a WEG horse. And this horse came along through a friend, Diederik Wigmans in Holland, and he said, I think it would be a great horse for you. So I flew over. I knew everything was going to be on really short notice. So I thought, if this is going to be the one, it's going to have to be really rideable, really beautifully ridden, and it was. I tried the horse, and I called Jane, and I said, if any horse we can do it on, this will be the one. So that was the beginning of May, and so we did buy the horse, and the middle of May, I uprooted myself, threw my boots in a bag and my saddle, and moved over to Belgium to ride with Jeanette, because I thought she would know the horse the best. And they were wonderfully open arms. They welcomed me, her and her husband, Chris. And it was a bit of a whirlwind from there.
Well, it certainly is. And talk about getting a catch ride just a few months before a major championship like this. And as you said, you identified him as a horse that could potentially get you onto the team. But how did you feel about your partnership as you were getting to know him? What kind of a horse was he to ride?
He's a beautifully trained horse. Jeanette trained him from a young horse to where he is now, and she's a tiny lady. She's about 5'2". So I knew that would be about our only sort of challenge riding-wise. She rides very classically, similar to how I was trained by Robert. So it was actually easy in that respect. All the movements were very easy. It was just... It's funny because I like having a real close partnership with my horses, so I want to develop that as quickly as I could. So I went over there, I took care of him myself, groomed him myself, because I knew that would be the best way to get to know him, because it's not just the riding part, it's the whole thing, the personality. So I think we clicked pretty early, thank goodness, and with Jeanette's help as translator, he slowly became more and more my horse, and thank goodness he's a very seasoned competition horse. So I knew that wouldn't be an issue. He's been everywhere. He's seen everything and had all good experiences. So we just went at it, and right away we started taking him places, me riding him places, and right away I had to do a national show to show competence to show in the CDIs in Europe. We did well. We got almost a 70% there with very good feedback from the Dutch judges. There were a couple of really good judges there. And so we went on from there.
So he's a 15-year-old Dutch warm-blood gelding. Now, how big is he, Katherine, and how big are you?
He is 1.83 m, which is 18 hands, and I am 5'8". But he's a very elegant horse, I think. And right away I got on him. He didn't ride like a big, heavy horse. I've had bigger, heavier horses in the past and thought, I'll never do this again. They're too big. But this horse really rides like a small horse, He's got big paces, but he really is handy and athletic and elastic and a beautiful horse to ride.
And what was it that really attracted you to him then in those early days? And what sort of personality does he have that would appeal to you?
He has a very self-secure personality. He knows who he is. He knows he's a great horse, and I've been lucky enough through grooming and riding to be around some very famous great horses and really have gotten to know those horses closely, both horses that Robert rode and ones that we had in the stable. And he had that same factor. They just know that they're great. They have this self-assurance. And he had that, and I knew that right away. As soon as I got on him, I felt at home on him. I mean, there were, little things here and there. I like to ride a horse in a certain way, and Jeanette likes to ride in a certain way, and we sort of had to meet in the middle in some places. But in general, he was so nicely trained by her that it was very easy to be able to really do all the movements quite well right away.
And what kind of horse is he in the barn? What do you call him?
They didn't so much have a stable name for him. I like to call him Mumpy, which I know is like a little bit of a silly name. I always get these silly, like my one horse is called Moo because he moves like a cow, and he just it sort of fit him just the way he is. So that's just my own personal and Carl's personal name for him. But really didn't really have a stable name. But it's just sort of the way you call them. They get to know your voice. And you have silly little nicknames for them, so that's my little silly nickname for him.
And what's he like in the barn?
He's very sweet. He's funny because in Europe they like to keep their horses sort of in the more closed door kind of stables, and we like to keep our horses here in America, but differently. We have we have a window open and a door open on the back, and he's allowed to stick his head out on either side. And we have big, huge stables, and we spend pretty much all day with our horses, which is, for me, that's the biggest part of the whole thing. The riding is sort of 50%, and the rest of it is just spending time with them. So we sit pretty much all day now because I had to leave my other competition horses in Florida. So we spend all day from 6:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, pretty much with him. So you see his personality coming out more and more just because we have the luxury right now of just spending a lot of time with him. So he's very sweet, very sociable, likes to stick his head out, and he loves now that he can stick his head out on both sides and look outside. We take him out for grass, so he gets a lot of attention right now. He's a bit spoiled, but that's why I like my horses.
Absolutely. So you could say you've really bonded with him now.
Yeah, I would say. I think every day has counted with us. Because we've had such a short amount of time. But I would say now he knows who I am. He calls for us in the barn when he sees us, and I always really like that. And my horses are like, they're pets. They're like dogs, and that's how I like it. So he's now sort of warming up to that whole idea.
Now, what does he change much when he goes to a competition, Katherine? Does he feel the occasion, or is he just so self-assured that he takes it in his stride?
I would say he is pretty much the same at home as he is at the competitions, which is nice because you can really rely on that. He's a showman. You can feel when you go up to the ring and you take him around the outside of the ring, you can feel him pump up and wants everybody to look at him. But the really beautiful thing about him is in the arena, he's very, very similar to how he is outside of the arena. So that's a nice thing to be able to rely on. I've had plenty of horses in the past that weren't that way, would either get too excited or too lazy in the arena. So it's nice to have one that is just pretty much the same.
So tell us about your groom. I know your groom is pretty special too, isn't he?
Yes, he is. My groom is my husband. I was actually always a person when I groomed and worked for Robert for all those years. All I had was my horses, and I wasn't even ever thinking that I would ever get married. I hate to say it. And then I met Carl, and he fit right in with my lifestyle. He didn't groom when I first met him. He was doing polo. But then he sort of warmed up to the idea of grooming, and now he's a real perfectionist like I am. So, yes, now he's grooming for me, so it's fabulous. We get to travel around, us and our dogs, everywhere together, and it's really nice.
Well, I can imagine, having groomed myself, and that's how I made my way through my career to riding, like you, Katherine. I know how particular you would be, and so does that translate to Carl? Is he as picky as you can be, and as thorough? I know once you do your own horses, it's very hard to have somebody else doing them.
I think it's actually hard because he is as picky, if not more picky, than I ever was. But I'm still picky myself. So I say things and he says, I know I've already done it. But it's difficult because for doing it for all those years, I'm so used to doing it myself and so used to going over everything twice and the packing thing. So that's about the only thing that once in a while causes a little friction because we both want to control the situation and I want to be as involved as he is. It was very difficult for me giving up the grooming because I had to be basically pushed out of the grooming. And I still like to do a lot of it myself. I still like to tack them up and take them out for grass and all that. And so we've reached a happy medium with all of that. He still lets me do a lot of that, which is very nice of him. But he is very, very particular and very picky about how the horses look and how they're treated and how they're groomed and all of that. So no, it's great that way. I never have to worry. I do, but I never have to worry.
So you would consider yourself a well-adjusted rider now. You allow him to clean off your boots when you get on and just those polishing and final touches once you get in the saddle?
Yes, I do. I mean, I always, I polish my own boots beforehand, but I let him wipe them off before I go in the ring.
Right.
And I still braid my own horses. I've always done that, and I think I always will do that. But he refuses to braid anyway, so that's fine. He thinks it's a very unmanly thing to do, I think. But I've always done that, and it actually sort of calms me down, and I just love the horses' braids to look a certain way, so I always do that myself. And yeah, we sort of share the responsibilities.
Well, I would say because once you get to a competition, if you can be hands-on, it does help you with nerves and to keep you focused. And how do you adjust to this sort of situation and the pressure of being a team member now, Katherine, and heading to a major championship like this? Do you get flustered with nerves?
I have to say that I really don't. I was surprised actually because I thought I would. But I think, honestly, because I've been exposed so much to it, and I've been to 3 Olympics, I've been to 3 World Championships, I've been to a couple of World Cups, and I've sort of seen the whole thing and been around that whole scene so much that I think it actually is a comfort that I know what's coming. I've been with those people. I've seen how different people handle themselves. And I think the biggest thing to combat nerves is to feel confident in your preparation for a horse show. And I've tried always, from being around those kind of great people, Stefan and Günther and Robert and Debbie and so many amazing riders, really being close to those people and considering them my friends, that I've seen how they prepared, and I've always tried to be really prepared for all these things. So even though this particular situation, everything had to come really quickly, I still tried to make sure that I was really mentally, physically, and training-wise prepared. So I think that takes away a lot of your nerves. So actually, I think some nerves are good. I think you need to have some nerves. If you don't have any nerves, then you don't care enough. But I don't think that I have nerves that hinder me, which is a nice thing. I wasn't sure if I did or didn't, but being in the situation, I think actually mentally I handled it better than even I thought I would.
So you managed to keep those butterflies flying in formation?
Yes, and I'm very lucky to have an incredible owner from Jane who is 200% supportive of me. Even when I wasn't necessarily supportive of myself, she believed in me because I was a pretty inexperienced person for her to put all this faith in. She's been incredible that way. I can't say enough good things. And at the horse shows, she's amazing. She shows up. She's confident for you. She's there for you. She leaves when she needs to leave, and then she shows back up when she's supposed to show up. And that is honestly the biggest support. And I have I just have an incredible support group from vets and farriers, and obviously my groom and my parents. Everybody's been amazingly supportive. And I'm lucky because I really sort of was brought up in this community from grooming from when I was 16 years old. So all these people are my family. I was with all these people in Florida for so many years, and they brought me up. So I've had amazing support.
Well, tell us about your family. Will they be coming to WEG to cheer you on, Katherine?
Yes, they are. My mother flew in from Scotland for the last week of Gladstone, which was incredible because she didn't really have the money to do it, but she just scraped together and put it on credit cards and came. and she's going to fly back for WEG, which will be amazing. And my dad is also flying from New Jersey to Kentucky for WEG, so that'll be really nice. And I have all of my friends from Florida that are coming, which I can't believe that everybody's actually coming. It's amazing. And we're lucky that we have WEG in Kentucky so that it's not so far for people to have to travel for this. And, yeah, I'm really, really lucky.
Absolutely. Well, what a team you're going to have behind you. So we won't be able to miss that once the dressage starts. We'll be able to look up in the stands and know who's supporting Katherine Bateson.
I hope so.
That's fantastic. Now, I have to ask you, although you're very well seasoned in the sport and in the community, do you get superstitious in any way? Is there anything that you need to do to prepare in a certain way just before your competition?
It's funny you say that, because I got, with competing, I started to get a bit out of control, because everybody gives you lucky things. And then you start to have your little lucky breeches and your lucky socks, and then, well, those socks didn't work, so I throw those out and get another pair of lucky socks. And actually, I got myself a bit too into that. I hate to admit this. You're the first person I've told this to. So I decided for this past competition, I have certain things, a certain thing on my coat and stuff that were lucky. But I decided that I was not going to rely on that anymore. So I used a certain bathroom stall, and that worked. Well, this one didn't work, and you start to get yourself I started to get myself in a bit of a twist about it. So for Gladstone, I threw all of that to the wind, and I said I will go in whatever toilet stall is open. I won't have a lucky one. I will take whatever socks are on top and whatever breeches are on top. And it worked for me, so I'm very happy about that. I seem to be overcoming my superstition.
Well, the lucky omens are certainly on your side now, aren't they?
I hope so.
That's fantastic. Well, what a journey, Katherine. So, obviously, we're just 2-3 weeks out from WEG. What next for you? I know Norton had a bit of a break after Gladstone, and you obviously need to get him back in the tack now, because you'll be heading to Gladstone in a few days. So, tell us a little bit about what the rest of this journey looks like to Kentucky.
We are going to go. We're lucky we have a very short journey back to Gladstone, so we have an hour-and-a-half trip from New York to Gladstone. We're going to go on September 1st to Gladstone, and Todd Fletcherich and I have the same freestyle lady, so she's going to come beginning of the week and help us with our freestyles a bit and get those sorted out. And then we're going to be, from September 4th on, all of us are going to be there. We are required to be there. And we're going to be working, I think a lot with, Stefan's going to be helping us a lot as well. We're going to do some show preparations, videos. We're going to have some judges come and watch us and score us. So I'm really excited about that time. I love training. I love lessons. And our group of team members are actually all good friends of mine. I don't know Katherine as well because she's been in Europe a lot, but everybody else has been actually really good friends of mine for years and years, and Todd and I are very close. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
How does it feel to actually officially be now named as a team member? I mean, this must be a dream come true, an ambition fulfilled that you're actually a U.S. team member.
It is, I hate to say it's unbelievable because that sounds like I don't have much self-confidence, but it is just amazing to me. I mean, I'm so excited and flattered that I made it this far, and honestly, it's been the support of all the people around me that have got me here. I mean, I've had just amazing support, so I'm really excited, and I want to do my best for my adopted country, which is really, really where I feel like I'm from at this point.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, we want to wish you the very best of luck, Katherine, on your journey, to the rest of your journey to Kentucky. And we look forward to catching up with you when you get here. And we will, of course, be broadcasting live on stage at the Alltech Pavilion here in the Horse Park during WEG. So will you come back on the show with us?
Of course, I'd love to if I'm invited back.
Absolutely, you bet you will. And I know you had told me earlier that a good friend of yours is Carl Hester, who's on the British team, and he will be here.
Yeah. Yes, I'm so thrilled. He was one of the first person I called when I found out I made the team because we're very good friends. I've trained a lot with him, and so I'm so excited to be there with him as well. I've got lots of friends that are going to be fellow team members on different teams. So I'm excited.
Well, terrific. Well, we must try and get you and Carl on together, or certainly some of your other teammates as well. We'll get you to come along to the show. We'd love to meet you, and we want to wish you the very best of luck, Katherine, on the rest of this journey. We're really excited about you being part of the team, and it's been a joy talking to you. I look forward to actually meeting you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, thanks again to Katherine. You know, I really enjoyed that conversation, Heather. I had not spoken to Katherine before, and she was a lot of fun.
Well, that's great. She is such a wonderfully nice person, such a hard worker. She has definitely paid her dues, and it's just so great to see her having made the team this year. I'm very, very, very proud and happy for her.
Well, as we heard, of course, she came up the hard way. She worked her way up from being a groom. She served her apprenticeship, as they say.
Yeah, she paid her dues.
She definitely did. Well, we want to wish her again all the very best of luck, and hopefully we will catch up with her when she gets to the horse park in just a few weeks. Well, Heather, you've been gone a little while. I know the last time you were on the show, you had some really valuable tips, and we got some great response to those tips. And this week, you've got something completely different. And I know you always see the big picture and what people are aiming for. And I like this idea of keeping people focused. And I think so. You're going to give us a tip on the dangers of end gaining.
Right. End gaining is a term that describes in pretty much any sport athletes who think of what their goal is and they try to jump to it too quickly, or they think of the goal so much that they actually use the goal or the end result, the thing they're after, as they use it almost as a tool to actually get to it itself. And it's pretty common that a lot of riders get not just in a hurry. Part of it is riders that get in a hurry, but not always. I think it's also just sort of misunderstood that the goal really shouldn't be the tool that you use to get to the goal. So, for instance, in dressage, if you think of riders that are, maybe into the sport for a few years and they're still really, struggling to find out what it's all about and how to get that elusive top line that's just so round and beautiful and supple, and they're sitting on a horse maybe that is a little flat and the back is down and right behind them, and they think they really want to make their horse look like what they see as their goal. They might try to maybe in a manual way just get the horse in that position and then just spend hours and hours with the horse like that. But in reality, there are lots of exercises and transitions and educating the horse to be sensitive to the aids and understand reward and punishment, things like that, and getting them in balance. That are the things that really would be more the tools to get to that end result. So that's just, one example. Another really common example is riders that really wanted to learn how to do a flying change or really teach their horse to do a flying change. So they end up doing a lot of flying changes before the horse knows more about their balance, their reactivity, the listening to sensitive aids, and piecing it apart and using transitions and more specific tools that build you up to the point where the change happens. So it's a pretty common misconception, at least when I see when I go to clinics and my students here at home, and that it can happen to any of us, that we think about what we want to happen and we can sometimes just try to jump to it a little too soon, which is again termed end gaining, and there's a lot of danger in that, and it can cause problems and actually slow progress. So that was my tip for this week.
That's great. It's all about staying in the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, staying in the moment and really think about what it is that you're doing and where it's going to get you, and what's your horse learning from what you're doing in every moment.
And also that it reinforces the journey too, and the tools the steps that you take to get to that, and not, as you say, jump to the finishing line in too much of a hurry. It's like the journey, it's not the arriving, it's the journey, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. I mean, there have had horses in my career that actually can, really get everything going well, and they're doing, their best and sort of at the, their potential kind of limit, you could say, but things are going well. And when you get to that point, I've had some horses that I kind of lose interest because they know it all already. Mm-hmm. So, the journey for me it really is the thing that makes me want to get back up there and, teach them some more and get further along down the road that they're going down. So once they get to the place you're going, then that's nice too. But I think the journey is really what's the most interesting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Heather. Well, we have one message that Kay wrote on our Facebook page. It was for you, Heather. And she says she loves your concept of looking over the horse's ears and imagining a bubble over his head. She said she tried it and immediately she could read her mare's thoughts. She said it improved the feel and helped her avoid dropping her head and looking down, which has been a constant problem for her. She thought that was a brilliant tidbit, and she wants to thank you for sharing that one and for your contributions to the show.
Well, you're very welcome, Kay. And for those of you who don't know the rest of that story, the bubble over the horse's head, and that might sound funny, but if you imagine it as in like a comic book character, and they have that bubble over their head, and there are words in it, and that's what the character is saying. That I try to suggest to my riders that they imagine that, and they have to read their horse's mind. Like, what is the horse? What's the communication coming back to you from the horse? And I think that's just a good place to put your eyes. At least think when you have your vision that way, then your peripheral vision around the sides, left and right and up and down, can be very soft. And you're not staring at a particular thing. And you can also just look right for that bubble. And that sounds funny, but you can start to read that a lot better than if you're, have a hard focus somewhere else. So, that works for a lot of people. I think that's a pretty effective one.
I can imagine that might be effective for us with people too.
I don't know if I can go that far. I can read horses, but people, I don't know.
All right, Heather. Well, thank you so much for that. And I also want to remind everybody about our coverage during the World Equestrian Games. We will be recording the show live to a live audience at the Old Tech Pavilion, which is in the main parking lot at the west end of the main parking lot where the vendors will be and the Old Tech experience will be. So come along to the Old Tech Pavilion during the games and we will be recording those shows. We'll have some great guests, some riders and expert commentary. And it'll be an awful lot of fun. So I hope if you're visiting us at the World Equestrian Games, you'll stop by and say hello to us. And I should point out that those recording days will be on the day of competition except for one. And that they begin, of course, on the 27th of September with the first day of the Grand Prix. And we will be recording between 6 and 7 p.m. And the same for the next day, the second day of Grand Prix will be between 6 and 7 p.m. we will be recording. And then on the 29th of September, the Grand Prix special, we will be recording between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. And then, of course, the freestyle is on October the 1st, but because that's an evening competition and it will finish quite late, we will be recording the show the very following morning, October the 2nd, at 7:30 in the morning. So between 7:30 and 8:30, if you're in the horse park for breakfast, come along and join us on stage there at the Old Tech Pavilion. It's going to be a really busy time, Heather, and that, as you said earlier, that clashes with Dressage of Devon, but you'll probably get a feed from the horse park somehow to keep everybody informed of what's happening with our team during the games too.
Well, I hope so.
I hope so.
I'm really sad to miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that it clashes, but we can't accommodate everybody, can we? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that wanted to be at WEG that have to be at Devon, and vice versa. And I should also point out, Heather, our friend here on the Dressage Radio Show, one of my co-hosts, Mary Lauritsen, she's going to be competing at Dressage of Devon. And when we had her on the show, she mentioned how much she was looking forward to meeting you too. So hopefully both of you will get the opportunity to say hello. Both co-hosts here on the Dressage Radio Show. Check out each other when you get to Devon.
It'll be fun to meet her.
Yeah, she's a great girl, Mary. Very popular here on the show. So we look forward to hearing how you guys get a go, and hopefully you'll come back on the show after that, Heather. We're winding up now to the World Equestrian Games, and that's going to be our focus. As I mentioned, next week we'll be joined by Stefan Peters, to be the last of the U.S. team to have joined us here on the show in the lead up to the Games to profile their preparation for the World Equestrian Games. So stay tuned for that next week, a conversation with Stefan Peters. And then, of course, we will miss a week before the World Equestrian Games starts because we have 4 daily shows during WEG. I won't be recording the show the week before, so you'll have to save up your podcast minutes and join us for the Games and the daily shows that we'll be recording then. Well, that about wraps it up, Heather. What next for you? It's still much more preparation, of course, for Devon, and you mentioned your exhibition coming up here shortly, and that's going to be close by in Folsom. Where can we find out more about that?
Well, I will be posting anything that I can on my website, heatherblitz.info, probably on my Facebook fan pages, One Paragon's fan page.
Oh, of course, Paragon's fan page. He's an active he's very active on Facebook, isn't he?
He is. He's quite the ham, and he likes to get his fan base really high. So, join in on his fan page. He would be glad to have you.
All right. Well, we'll put links, of course, on our show notes at dressageradio.com, so you can follow Heather, and you can also follow her on Twitter, Heather Blitz, and you can follow me, Chris E. Stafford, and, of course, Horse Radio. You can also pick up our fan page on Facebook as well as Heather's and Paragon's. And you can also contact me, Chris at horseradionetwork.com, one word, Chris at horseradionetwork.com, or if you prefer, leave me a voicemail, 270-803-0025. Always love to hear from you with your questions and comments, and we will, of course, pass any questions you have for Heather along, any training tips that you want to hear from Heather. Just send those over to me, Chris at horseradionetwork.com, and I'll make sure Heather gets them. Well, I want to thank our sponsors again, Equestrian Collections and Kentucky Performance Products, and our backstage crew. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network. We now have 8 shows, so there's something for everyone. And if you're coming to Lexington for the World Equestrian Games, you can also follow the 2010 radio show. They're going to be recording daily shows from the International Equestrian Festival, so that'll be Glenn the Geek and Samantha, recording to a live audience in downtown Lexington at the Rupp Arena, the Lexington Convention Center, every evening during the World Equestrian Games. That's at the International Equestrian Festival. So go along and say hello to Glenn and Samantha. Well, that about wraps it up, Heather. I want to thank you very much for joining us again this week. I hope you'll come back in a few weeks' time.
Well, if you'll have me, I'll be here.
You bet we will. Thanks again so much. Of course, I will be back same time, same place next week. So until then.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to practice safe riding by wearing helmets.